give it a second to start recording. There we go. Welcome to the second Odyssey community, APAC community call. Today we are going to be sorry about the last minute cancellation last time. It was due to the holidays in some of the other countries that we didn't account for. So our bad from a organizer's point of view that we forgot that it was such a big holiday that 3 of the countries were off. So it didn't seem right to have a community call with so many members out. So we postponed it, or we canceled it, and now we've moved the agenda to this week. So this week, what we are going to talk about is new to Odyssey. So what does it mean to be new to Odyssey? And what I'm going to do is actually mute some of you guys because there's some echo noise. I apologize. If you need to, please unmute yourself when you need to talk, but I have muted those who was having an echo. Okay. So today we're going to talk about new to Odyssey and what does it mean to be new to Odyssey. I do have Patrick with me, and I see Craig is here as well. But we're going to go through a little bit with you about what it means to be new and how do you even get started when you're new, right? Because Odyssey is so huge, it's so big. Where do you even start and what's step one? So what you see here on my screen that Craig has spent the amazing time to help us build is a step-by-step guide for you to go around and use for when you're new to Odyssey. So Odyssey, as you see here, I love this picture. I really do love this picture. We need to do more of this, Patrick, like this type of picture, where we have all the folks from the symposium. Well, seems like a long time ago.
But this that definitely doesn't look like it would be a qualified event in the U.S. right now. But I long for the opportunity for us to do that again for sure.
Yes, and I would love to see one of this in Asia Pacific. It's such a wonderful picture of all the people that came together from a global, from all the different countries that attend a symposium. This is the European Symposium. But when you first come to Odyssey, right, there's so much that you can do. We have so many websites, so many different places you can go. So what is the steps that you want to be able to do when you join Odyssey? As you can see here, what we're telling you is step one is to go to the forums and introduce yourself and actually say hi to us, right? So if you go to odyssey.org and you hit the forums, there is a lot that goes on in here. Lots of people talk, lots of people ask questions, lots of people provide information. But what you can first do is come into the general and introduce yourself. So in here, there's a thread that says join, new to Odyssey, please introduce yourself, right? Come in here, introduce yourself to us, look around, check out what are some of the things that are going on. Like here we have the symposium scientific community or committee if you want to join that. There is a weekly digest that you can look at. You have the next Woo call if you're interested in the Women Odyssey, except for Asia Pacific. I think that's at like 2 p.m. China time. So it may be a little bit in the morning for you guys. But here's where you would introduce yourself. So let us know who you are, say hello to us, and we will welcome you with open arms. But that's not the only thing that you can get out of the forum. The forum itself has a lot of other stuff in here that you can utilize and help yourself get into better understanding who's out there in the community and how you can even start off getting some information. You can see here in the forum, we have all these other threads in here. For example, I go into the CDM one a lot because this is where a lot of the folks ask questions about the CDM, new fields that they may need, problems, scenarios that they've had, how to do certain conversions, X, Y, and Z. So this is where a lot of the folks ask questions. And you can see a lot of these, we have lots of activity that goes on. It doesn't stop. People reply to it very quickly. People continue to discuss and converse with each other like a ton in here, right? I go into this one a lot, but there are other ones that you can go into. There are ones for researchers, there are ones for developers, implementers. If you are into the vocabulary, you can go into things like the vocabulary. Then we also have these chapters that down here. Now, I know the Korean one is very lively in here. It has a lot of activity in here, as you can see. Of course, now there is also the forum where you can do a lot of the discussions and a lot of that stuff. I'm sorry, not the forum, Microsoft Teams, where you can do a lot of that stuff. And that's where, you know, another way you can come in and kind of join the journey. So going to step 2, which is about joining the MS Team environment, which I see all of you guys have joined because you're on this call now. Quite amazing. For the first time, we're using MS Team, and we have 24 of you guys being able to join us via MS Team. So it's actually quite amazing. I feel somewhat accomplished here because we've been able to get this many people join. I was afraid that we wouldn't be able to get as many people to join because we didn't use WebEx like we typically use for a lot of Asia Pacific meetings. So I'm going to really quickly turn it over to Patrick, who's going to talk a little bit more about Teams and how Teams work. But before I go there, how do you even sign up for Teams, right? Because you first have to sign up for Teams. And most of you guys, I hope, some of you I see have not signed up for Teams yet because I see you are coming in from an external site, either that or you have not switched over to your Odyssey Teams. But you can see up here, there are tabs up here. And there's this tab that says Collaborate with Odyssey in MS Teams. There's 3 forms here, right? Number 1, the form to join Teams. So if you click on that, you can fill out this form. And then someone in the back end will create an account for you. Okay, you just give us a little bit more information about who you are, what are you interested in, and then submit. And typically, pretty quickly, somebody will get back to you. Okay. Then once you're done with that, you can then go pick the working groups that you want to join. Okay. Now, in Teams, there are a lot of different working groups, right? So these are all the different working groups that you can join. You can join the different chapters. So in the Asia Pacific world, you can join all the different chapters we have. You can also join some of the studies that are going on. So you can do all of this and then, again, submit it, and then you will be added to many of the different sites. Like, for example, in Asia Pacific, we have the Odyssey Asia Pacific Teams board, which is where this meeting is. So if you logged into Teams, you could have came into here. And as you can see here, Patrick also put a poll out there for you guys to fill out today. So you guys can come in here, and this is where we would publish any news, any information about Asia Pacific. The local chapters may come into here and publish a little bit about maybe some of the stuff that they would like you guys to be aware of within their local chapters. So that's kind of MS Team, how you sign up, not how MS Team works. I'm going to turn it over to Patrick to tell you a little bit more about how MS Team works.
Great, thanks, Marie. Yeah, what I'd like to do just quickly is give you a high-level orientation of what we're all trying to do in Odyssey and how all the pieces fit together, and then show you how we're trying to organize all of that content within the Microsoft Teams environment. So can you see my screen? Okay. So I see several familiar faces, so it's good to see many of you again. Ooh, now I'm getting an echo. But for those of you that I don't know, hello and welcome. We're excited to have the leadership of so many on this call driving forward our Odyssey Asia Pacific community. And what we have been trying to do as the broader global effort, Craig Saxon, who's on the call, has been doing an amazing job of trying to make sure that we're doing a better job of communicating content about what we're doing and how we're doing it and how everybody can engage and participate as fully as that they would like to. And one of the things we've heard loud and clear is that there's a lot going on in the Odyssey community, but it kind of can be overwhelming to try to figure out where everything fits together and how to get started. So we want to provide this orientation for those of you who are newer on the journey. So Odyssey's mission is to improve health by empowering a community to collaboratively generate the evidence that promotes better health decisions and better care. And I start with our mission because part of what we're talking about here is how to empower that community and also how to facilitate collaboration amongst not only those of you on the call here today who are participating in the APAC community, but also how you all can become global collaborators with thousands of others who are participating in the community. Our collective effort that we are engaged in is to try to generate reliable evidence from the real world experience of patients that are captured in patient level data sets. And we all recognize that this journey is challenging and there's an opportunity for us to collaborate together on this journey to make it more efficient and more reliable. The Odyssey community is very large. It's exciting to see how the Asia Pacific region and all of the national chapters are continuing to move things forward. While I fully support, and you'll see me continuing to come join these Asia Pacific meetings because I want to make sure that I've learned from all of you and are able to collaborate with you, I want to be very clear that we do see this as a global community. So we want to have, we recognize time zones are challenging and collaboration around the world can be awkward, but we really do want to make sure that there's opportunities for all of you to actively engage with the thousands of other researchers across North America, the European region, the Middle East, South America, to participate alongside all of us in this journey together. This is a schematic that we have recently put together to try to explain how all the pieces of Odyssey fit together. And this will be forthcoming in a publication that George Ripsack has authored. So I'll talk it through in the various pieces. Within Odyssey, the community, we have many different types of collaborations. We have collaborations focused on establishing open community data standards. So that's the use of the OMOP Common Data Model. We have community collaborations focused on open source development of analytic tools. We have community collaborations that are taking place to foster methodologic research to try to establish and evaluate scientific best practices. And we have collaborations that are focused on clinical evidence generation. And very deliberately, we see these things actually feeding into one another because data standards are useless unless we actually have use of data. Our scientific best practices that we develop methods research papers, Cole and I have published several papers together, but methods research that just results in a paper doesn't have any impact unless people read those practices and use them. And there's two ways to make sure that happens. One is codify those best practices into open source tools. And the other thing is find real important clinical questions that need good answers and apply those best practices. And so we see all of these things as highly related, and yet none of you need to feel as if you need to be experts in all of these pieces to be able to collaborate. Each of these pieces has an opportunity for you to get engaged if you're interested in data, if you're interested in programming, if you're interested in methods, if you're interested in just having a clinical question that needs answering. Those are all opportunities to engage, and we're trying to create a mechanism where fostering the connections between these can happen. Now, in addition to that, Odyssey is a data network, and I want to be explicit about what that means. We have individuals within our community who have access to patient-level data, and what they have done by agreeing to be part of the Odyssey data network is that they have found that it would be useful for them securely within their own firewall to transform their data into the OMOP Common Data Model, and also to adopt standardized analytic tools developed by the Odyssey community that it makes it possible for them to generate evidence from their data. The Odyssey, the way that these collaborations fit with the data network is that those data standards that we are collaborating on are the very data standards that we are trying to use within the data network. And those open source tools that we're developing are the very tools that we are trying to make freely available to enable data partners and incentivize their participation within our community. And the Odyssey network is now over 150 individuals have access to databases, different databases around the world. But we are not in any way combining all of that data together, centralizing it or pooling it. This is a distributed data network. And what that means is every individual who's signing up to be part of the data network is basically just volunteering to say, hey, inside of my own environment, I think it's a good idea to follow the spirit of this community, to adopt the data standards and open source tools. Now, the third component of what we are doing is running Odyssey network studies. And several of the veterans on this call know that we have several studies underway within the Asia Pacific region. But to be very clear about what that means, an Odyssey network study is taking a research question and defining a protocol and an analysis specification for how we would answer that research question. That code can then be made publicly available, and any site within the Odyssey network could volunteer to participate in that study, which means that they are taking the code that's publicly available on the Odyssey GitHub page, they're downloading it and bringing it securely within their own environment, executing the code, and then voluntarily opting to share aggregate summary results. So we're not exchanging patient level data between any sites, we're sharing results and answers to questions. And where we can collaborate is the last step, is that together as a group, everybody who is interested in that research question can collaboratively interpret the results that have been generated and then figure out the best effective strategy for dissemination, whether that be publishing manuscripts or sharing the information in other forums. And so at a high level, Odyssey is a lot of things and a lot of different activities that you are all encouraged to engage in. But I want to be clear, particularly for those that are new and think, geez, this sounds like a lot. You don't need to know all of this stuff to be able to make a meaningful contribution. You can actually have a bite-sized piece that actually fits into this bigger puzzle and makes meaningful contributions. You know, Chung Soo got involved and has started making contributions to the patient-level prediction package, which has now resulted in lots of people in the community benefiting from the contributions that he's made. And that's a small step that's actually meaningfully impactful, that actually has a multiplier effect when you start talking about an international community of thousands of researchers trying to do all of these things all at once. And so I encourage all of you to not be bashful about taking a baby step, because those little steps can actually make a big difference and can grow pretty substantially. So that's the highlight of kind of conceptually what we're doing. What I want to do now is flip over to Microsoft Teams to show you how we're actually organizing all of those conceptual ideas. So as Mui showed you very briefly, we are using the Microsoft Teams environment. For those of you who joined this meeting by just clicking on the link that was sent out, you may be in Microsoft Teams through an internet browser like Google Chrome. If you would like to get the full feature functionality of Microsoft Teams, we strongly encourage you to download the application. And you should have seen a button that encouraged you to do that. There's a lot of capabilities in Microsoft Teams that are only available through the desktop app, and that's what I'm showing you here. When you log into the desktop app, you will know that you're logged in because you'll see your login in the top right-hand corner, and you'll also see that you are logged into the Odyssey account, and that's where you know that you've now entered this environment that we're going to explore. If on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's various things that are going on. There's this marker for activities, there are chats, there are teams, there's a calendar, and there's some other items that you may see depending on your user access. But I'm actually focused here on the third one down that says Teams. And depending on your organization of it, you will see one or more teams that you will have access to. As a default, anybody who registers for Odyssey, you're going to be immediately entered into the Odyssey Teams, this one up top here. This is where there are thousands of collaborators just like you who have joined the community and are interested in everything that's going on. As Mui showed you, there is also a team called Odyssey APAC. So if you are joining and specifically interested in regional activities, you'll be in here, and that's exactly where this meeting that is taking place right now is going on. This is our meeting. You can actually see the conversations that we were having right under here. A team is this item on the left-hand side, and underneath of a team there are channels. So you can see that this is the general channel associated with the Odyssey APAC meeting. And if I scroll all the way up to the top, the overall Odyssey meeting has multiple channels. One called General, where there are general conversations that take place. You'll see some of the work that Craig Saxon's been posted there for everybody to be aware of. You'll also see channels, for example, of Microsoft Teams best practices and guidance. For those of you who are less familiar with this platform, we've provided some documentation to help with that. There are a wide array of teams, and as Mui showed you, you can basically sign up to participate in any of the teams that you're interested in. You'll see that I have a pretty long list of teams because I'm pretty excited about everything that's going on in the Odyssey community. This is really just to show you how much stuff is actively going on within our community. We have work groups for data standards work associated with the common data model, vocabulary, ETLing activities. We have work groups associated with open source development, such as our Hades platform. We have work groups specifically focused on methods research and best practices in prediction, population level effect estimation. We specifically now have various activities that are going on centered on work around vaccine safety evaluations for COVID-19. And then we also have studies that are underway associated with individual clinical questions that we want answering. Work groups, the general way to think about a work group is if a group of people have a problem they'd like to solve, they can come together and say, we'd like to achieve this objective together. And the global Odyssey community will create a space for you to collaborate together to do that. And so we encourage you to be working together, and we are hoping that teams will foster that collaboration. You'll also see chapters that have been established. These are all of our regional and national chapters around the world, and then many of these are in the Asia Pacific region. These are places for folks that want to have conversations about goings on in regional activities to talk about those. And I know that several of you are already participating in those, but for those who are not aware, you can join those chapters and engage in those conversations as well. We are trying to use Microsoft Teams as the platform for collaboration. And what that really means is these are the places where synchronous meetings are taking place, like this meeting we're having now, where you can actually see that when a meeting is taking place, you see this little camera on here. That means there are people joining a meeting and having a conversation live with their video or their audio on. But we also can use these Microsoft Teams to have asynchronous chatting conversations where you can type questions and comments for people and engage in ongoing threads. This is particularly how Nicole and I have to work a lot because I'm lazy and don't stay up in the middle of the night to be on the opposite end of things. But we can engage in meaningful conversations around population level effect estimation by having some of these synchronous and asynchronous conversations. For example, here you can see conversations about how do we do comparative effectiveness in vaccines, where there are posts, document sharing, and various activities that can go on that you can participate in. We've deliberately set all of this up in the Microsoft Teams environment to try to foster the fact and recognize that we're a global community. So don't feel bad if you see a thread that's going on that's active in whatever the North America time zone for a while and that you're kind of joining it late. The whole reason we've created this environment is because we want to be able to have this conversation going around the world and have everybody have the opportunity to engage and participate, and don't feel like you missed out just because you couldn't attend a meeting that was scheduled in the middle of your night. So let me just stop there and see if there's any questions about what we are doing as a community or how we're trying to use Teams to foster that collaboration.
Patrick, I see a hand is up.
Yes, hi, it's Ezra Fass. Hello. Had a question about the previous slide that you showed, not so much the Microsoft Teams, but are there any is there a methodology or are there any plans to be able to kind of work out, let's say, you've got different sites that want to collaborate on whatever it is, instead of sharing the code, Are there any plans, or is there a way to have a query run across several distinct sites at the same time and return data for that, or that has to be kind of done in a distributed manner?
So the way that we are fostering collaborations currently across the Odyssey community is as a distributed data network, whereby only aggregate results are sent back. There are certainly various other efforts that are using the OMOP CDM and Odyssey tools, whereby they're first centralizing data and then performing the analysis as if it was centralized. An example of that in the US is the N3C initiative, which is a large collaboration of many different academic sites. And those sites have opted to pool all of their data into a central database. Then it's as if it would be one network, one partner like this.
Right.
But as a general principle, we are to protect patient privacy and to manage expectations of data partners. We don't send code to a site that extracts patient level data. We only return back aggregate summary statistics.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? All right. If not, Mui, I'll pass the ball back to you.
All righty. Sorry. I thought I still saw a hand up. Oh, there it goes. I was looking for the hand. I'm like, where's the hand? So we're halfway through, and what we would like to do before we move on, because you've heard from me and you've heard from Patrick, we would like for you guys to hear from some of the Odyssey members that has been in Odyssey for a little while. That's in Asia Pacific. So Ty, are you here? Yes, I see Ty. So Ty, would you like to give a brief 3 to 5 minute introduction of who you are, how you joined Odyssey, what do you see as benefits of Odyssey, and how can you help others, that are new if they wanted to reach out to you?
Sure. Thanks, Mui and Patrick. So as Mui said, I'm a Ty Stanford and I'm a biostatistician. And I've got a research background and a bit of private sector background as well. And I'd say I have a passion for applying computational statistics for better health outcomes, which aligns with Odyssey quite well. So currently I work within the Quality Use of Medicine and Pharmaceutical Research Centre, quite a mouthful, at the University of South Australia with Nicole Pratt and colleagues Jody and Catherine. And we're investigating the safety profiles of biologic medicines. So as far as how I joined Odyssey, I was lucky enough to join the Odyssey journey in late 2019, and I was able to go to the 2019 Odyssey Symposium in Washington, DC, when in-person meetings were a thing. And I was really blown away with not only the work of Odyssey, but the welcoming and community-minded people that I met at that symposium and all the interactions I've had since then. And I've been a strong advocate for Odyssey ever since then. As far as Odyssey and my involvement in it, currently I'm just finishing up a conversion of an Australian medicines prescription data set into OMOP. And although I'm a statistician by trade, I've been extending myself a little bit by implementing the OMOP database and all the software side that comes with it. As far as advice I'd give for new Odyssey people is definitely go onto the odyssey.org website and look up all the tutorials online. I felt I had a lot of aha moments watching people like Mui and Patrick and George and all the other great people. Their tutorials are fantastic, and it really made a lot of sense once I watched those. And I'd also, as already mentioned by Mui and Patrick, get on the forums. They're fantastic. Everyone is so kind. You can ask the stupidest questions in the world and they'll come back. You can tell that they're just being so nice. And that's really helped me get up to speed with the Odyssey world. Also, check out the Legend study that was published in the Lancet. And I've been lucky enough to do some meta-analysis on some of that data. And also, the last little plug I'll put in is the Odyssey Australia group. If you're in Australia or if you're interested in Australian healthcare, join our Odyssey Australia group. That's probably enough talking from me. Thanks, Moy.
Awesome, thank you. We also have Chung-Soo here, correct, from Korea. So Chung-Soo, if you want to introduce yourself, what organization you are with, and how did you join Odyssey, and what do you see Odyssey helping you, as well as how would you want to help others?
Hi, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm Chung-Soo Kim, and great to see you guys, and thank you for giving me the chance today. And I'm a PhD student in biomedical informatics at Aju University, and my background is pharmacy, and my primary interest is patient level prediction and risk stratification for medication use. I started my Odyssey journey in my lab because my lab is a collaborator of Odyssey and was served as coordinating center of Odyssey Korea chapter. So I attended at 2019, and I attended several Odyssey symposium and the full program of symposium, including tutorials. And yeah, I had several experiences about Odyssey, but I want to share my one experience to you. Last year, I published my first paper using Odyssey tools. It's about a model for predicting the cause of deaths in the patient record that had missed the death records. I have a unique journey about this study. Interesting point is that I had started this work due to a single forum post and reply. Someone told us they don't have cause of death data, but we had it, so Chan and I could decide to make a specific death prediction model. And when we had got this idea, we could use and apply the patient level prediction framework for this study. So we developed a study package and presented this result to the Odyssey Symposium. And we also could meet a collaborator like Jenna Reps in J&J with Chan's help. Jenna is a professional for the PLP. She helped me a lot. And then we could publish our study finally. I think it's very precious and great experience, and and for the newcomers, I recommended them. We already had many resources for learning about Odyssey, like YouTube channel or the book of Odyssey, especially Korean version, and I want to say them be brave and grab your opportunities. There are many chances to know about Odyssey and collaborate in research. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing, and congratulations on your publication. Next, we have Jing Li from China. Jing.
Hi, everyone. This is Jing from Shanghai. So I want to quickly share my experience. It's really how amazing I think this community is, and just the content itself. So speaking from someone who is really new to this healthcare industry, as far as I joined IQ. So I'm currently IQVIA OMAP Studies team in Shanghai, and I joined in mid 2019. And prior to that, all my experience are I've spent quite some years in the property and casualty insurance company, so we deal with claims data as well. but then it's about cars or houses or apartments. So it's like, okay, now I'm working in IQVIA, I'm working on medical claims data. This is still claim data. So I thought, it's very similar. Like, hopefully it will be very easier learning curve and everything. And then quickly I realized how ignorant I was when I first joined, because there are so many ways cars could break. They claim for a windshield, they claim for like an engine or body parts, but that's very clear and what the data can suggest. But then if you compare people's claim on health, like there are just so many different diseases, there are so many things that could go wrong, and there are like so many fixes instead of just putting on a windshield, a new one. But then there are like so many different procedures and drugs, which really complicates the whole data, how we interpret it, how we use it, how we analyze it. So I think it's just how amazing and how complicated the data is was definitely very new or shocking to me at first. And then I was getting to learn about CDM and vocabulary, how we kind of standardize everything and to make them look, clean, and you can actually analyze them pretty easily and also fast, despite of how crazy complex the data is. So I think I really found that very amazing. So that was really my experience from, I've never dealt with healthcare before, but I think that's definitely something I really enjoy and really kind of admire all the work that has been done within the community. And also I want to share is just how I think I would reckon what Changsu and Tai has mentioned. It's really a nice experience to work with everyone. Despite I think there are like time differences and other obstacles on the way, but I think I'm really getting a lot of help from everyone to kind of steepen the curve, learning curve after joining Odyssey. So I'm really appreciate that. And I'm currently working a lot with APAC and the China community so that we can bring or introducing Odyssey to a broader community here. And I definitely enjoy every minute of it. And I'm really looking forward to future collaborations or chats or putting our graphs together, putting our video graphs together and everything, all the fun things we'll do in the future. So thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you to all three of you for sharing your journeys. They are very different. As you can kind of see in Odyssey, it kind of represents how different the folks are and where they come from, the background that they have, but how everyone has come together as a team to, go down that same common path of this journey that's inside of Odyssey. So it's awesome to see. And thank you again for your time to present here. Now, the next step I want to go into, did everybody see the poll that's out there that Patrick put out?
I'm happy to share my screen, Mui, so you can see the link in the info.
Go ahead.
If that's fine.
Yep.
Let's see, hopefully you all can see that.
Yes.
All right. So So we've received some questions already, but for those of you who have some questions based on what you've heard, I encourage you to either upvote some of the questions that have already been asked or ask your own question. You can go to this link that's at the top of the screen, pollev.com/PatrickRyan800, and you'll be able to just get in there and ask your questions. And I'll leave this up on the screen. And Mui, I think that first question is probably right up for you. Are there any tools available to help me with my ETL?
So there are tools there to help you with your ETL. This is a question a lot of people ask us when they first start off, and I will be very straight here. There are tools that help you, to assist you in your ETL process. There is no tool out there to help you do your ETL. Okay, so we have White Rabbit, we have Rabbit in a Hat, we have Usagi. Those are three tools that are out in the Odyssey community that you can use to help do your data profiling and data analysis to better understand your data. And then with the documentation of your ETL specification, which is the White Rabbit, and then also with some of your mapping. Now, Usagi does not work on non-English languages. So that is one downside of Usagi, but it does work on, it's really good for English language mapping help. But there is no tool out there that will help you take your data and move it over to the OMOP CDM. That you kind of have to do yourself, as Ty has mentioned earlier in his conversation there.
Great. The next question is that is upvoted here was where can I get help if I have a question about the Odyssey CDM? So, Moody, I'll let you start with that. I'll let you start.
Okay, where you go to do this, what Patrick showed you earlier, right? Two places. One is the forums, right? You can go there. There is a research thread in their research category, and you can go in there, and people do ask questions there. Two, and that's the best place to go. There is also a Odyssey updates and news where we talk about the different potential research that's going on out there. Three is calls like this, both the Asia Pacific side and the Odyssey global side, I'm going to call it. When we have these community calls, we do talk about what is going on around the community. And there are times folks will actually present about their research, or people will give updates about their research, so you can go there. The last place is inside Teams, right? So in Teams, you can see already when we showed you earlier, there are selections that you can pick. There are already some active studies that are going out. And then the working groups, some of the working groups also have studies as well. Patrick, do you want to add anything to that?
That's the Korean version of the Book of Odyssey. That's the English version of the Book of Odyssey. And you've also got online our Chinese version of the Book of Odyssey. That's another great resource for those who are looking for a place to start and have a question. There'll probably be good information there, but certainly don't hesitate to ask your question, and folks in the community will be happy to answer them.
And the online version of the books are actually on the Odyssey website as well, if you don't have a physical copy.
How would we go about starting a Odyssey network study?
How do you go about doing that? You have a question, you post it out there. Like Chung Soo just said earlier, right? They had a question out in the forums, and he noticed that they have data other people didn't. So he just decided, okay, talking with Chan, let's start one. We did the same thing over here with the Asia Pacific hypertension study that we're doing. It was just some folks said, you know what, we would love to try to replicate something similar to what the Legend project is doing, like Ty mentioned earlier, if you want to find more about the Legend. And some of the folks just started, hey, we want to start one, started it in the forums. Can we get started? Anyone else interested? We had a bunch of people who raised their hands, and just like that, we got together and started working on that study. I see Nicole, you have your hand up.
Let me just ask first, Chan, since you're our resident pro and lead author of our first JAMA study, do you have anything else to add about running an Odyssey network study?
Okay, as Chung said, be brave. So I know that as an Asian, I know that many Asians are a little bit shyer than other ethnic groups. So just start, and please remember that my first Odyssey study actually failed to publish in most of journals. Like that study was rejected like 8 times from various journals, and I was really frustrated. So, but I tried again, and the paper has been published in JAMA. I do not think that my study was that bad, or worse than my JAMA paper, but it depends on your luck or on the editor's preference. But please just keep trying. That's what I want to say.
Awesome. Nicole and Catherine, you guys had your hands up?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment, I guess, that the Odyssey website has a section called Odyssey Studies, and that has a list of all of the studies that are ongoing, that have been done, that are in the planning process. And for me, that's been a really valuable resource just to have a look at what the community is doing. If somebody's doing something similar to what you're interested in, then join up the study, or have a look at the protocol that is listed there, and that will give you a lot of information about what you need to think about before you start your study, and the things that perhaps you need to do before you propose. So I think that's, for me, that's been a valuable site to go and browse through. So Nui set it up here. So you can see there's a whole heap of different studies going on at the moment, and there's got to be one in there that interests you. So.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, I see Morning, your hand was up as well.
Yeah, I actually have a question, right? So I understand that for our APAC community meetings, we are fairly new. But I do learn that our US community meetings has always been very active, and there are many participants in those meetings. Due to the time zone, right, not many of us may stay up, like me, don't have the energy to stay up for those meetings, but I guess those meetings will be recorded as well. Is there somewhere that we can find those recording in case we just want to find out what they talk about and what's going on the other world?
Yeah, Patrick, can you go back to the Odyssey website that you were just on?
Yep. I'm just going to go back.
So in here, I think it's yeah, there we go. Yes.
So if you look at events and collaborations, Craig's been doing a great job of making sure that we post all of the information for our weekly community calls. If you just click there, you'll get this nice breakdown. And what Craig's been doing a really nice job this year is not only have we kind of give you the brief written synopsis if you want to see it, but also the links, and each of the like last week's meeting, we kind of had 3 different topics presented. So we've cut those up into 3 short YouTube videos. And Craig makes those available so that you can kind of take a look. And if I close this accordion, you'll see all of the weekly calls are all available, and you can actually go back and watch any of the segments that you might be interested in. So for our community calls, Craig's been managing that. He's been doing a really wonderful job. For the work group calls inside of Microsoft Teams, it's basically the responsibility. Whoops, let me pull it over, bring it over here. It's the responsibility of the work group leads to record their meetings, but generally the way that happens, like the meeting we're on right now, you can see that we are, whoops, let me look that back up. This Odyssey APAC, you can see that this meeting is happening and it's being recorded. What will actually happen is that at the end of this meeting, there will be a file that is the recording. Mui's going to download it and save it in the files, and therefore there'll be a folder called recordings, and that's where all of the meetings are happening. So all of our work group leads are, to the best of their remembering to click the record button, are doing this activity to save those for those who are not able to attend a meeting.
And for the Odyssey APAC community call, we are actually going to be working with Craig as well to put it out there in the Odyssey website, like you just saw for the global one, because same thing, even on the Asia Pacific side, we assume that some folks may not be able to attend, and we want to make it as it's one community call, right? So it's just that, like you said, the 2 time zones. We just don't have ours on a weekly basis yet. I hope the intent is, of course, ultimately to get there on a weekly basis, but right now we're trying it on a bi-weekly basis.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, folks.
So the next question that's been posted here is, can I still participate in a study even if my organization doesn't have data? So emphatically, yes. The real reason we've created this whole community is because anybody who can make any contribution to a study should be encouraged and incentivized to do that. You do not need to be a data partner to be part of a collaboration. If you've got an interesting research question and you can convince others that they want to work with it, you can contribute. If you can help in the design of a study, you can contribute. You can help in the implementation of a study, help write some of the code, you can contribute. If you can help with the writing of the manuscript, you can contribute. And if you have data, you can contribute. But we've realized that doing good science is a team sport, and we need people to participate across the spectrum of activities. And it's very rare that any one individual or one institution has everything that they need to do all of the pieces as well as possible. So we really are trying to foster that collaboration. But do not feel like just because you don't have data that you have any less opportunity to engage and participate. We welcome and encourage you to join us fully in all of these network studies.
Totally second that.
Where should I start learning about Odyssey best practices in machine learning or causal inference? So I'll again hold up my copies of the Book of Odyssey. Say that that's a good place for you to start looking. The other thing that we haven't mentioned yet that I would encourage you to take a look at is the Eden Academy, which is academy.eden.eu. This is where we are posting Odyssey tutorials that are, Ty mentioned he's attended some of the tutorials at the Odyssey Symposium, but we've also been making asynchronous classes that you can actually take, and they're available through the Eden Academy. And specifically in the last 3 months, we have posted a class on patient level prediction and a class on population level effect estimation. So both of those specifically to kind of see the current best practices, that's a great place that I would encourage you to start with. Mui, what are some ways to collaborate if I want to convert my data to the OMOP CDM?
Oh, there are so many ways you can collaborate. There are lots of ETL working groups out there. There's an EHR one, there's a CDM and vocabulary working group. Actually, I think the CDM and vocabulary working group, we try to do one of the meetings in the morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time so that others can join. And in that working group, we talk a lot about, what are some of the issues folks are facing? How can we modify the CDM, or how do we extend it? Right now, we're talking about, stabilizing 5.3.1, and how do we move to the newest version, right? There's an EHR working group out there where they talk about a lot of the different EHR systems out there. I believe that's the one where they talk about the EPIC system as well, or I cannot remember if there's a separate EPIC working group out there. But there's quite a few working groups out there where you can go and learn about the OMOP conversions as well as common issues that you have. And like Patrick says, the Eden Academy has an ETL training class. The forums, best place. Again, ask any of your questions out there. Someone will answer, regardless of what type of question. Very honest. Doesn't matter. It could be the most basic question of them all. We will answer it. Someone will answer it, I should say. And 50% of the time, that person might be Christian or Patrick.
All right. Another question here. Many of the work groups seem to have meetings during the evening time. How can I collaborate with folks when I'm unable to attend? So as Morning was asking, I think what we're really trying to do is to really encourage active engagement through the MS Teams environment and make sure that it's not a requirement that you attend the synchronous meetings, but that also we have a lot of asynchronous chats. Some of that activity are activities like reviewing documents, where a document will be posted and open to review so that you can kind of comment at your own pace. But I would encourage you to join the work groups that you're interested in and see the conversations that are taking place, and also just reach out to folks individually and say, hey, I want to work on this, and create the plan for you to engage in that. We've got 3 more questions, so I think we can probably get through this. So I hold a technology role in our organization and want to help the research community to move it into the OMOP CDM. Could you recommend a quick path? There we go. I can click on it. Could you recommend a quick path for a minimum viable product or POC of available tools? I don't know, Mui, if you have any comments on that.
Odyssey in the box. So Odyssey in a box or Odyssey on AWS are great POCs that's already been built. If you want to see how it works, because it already has in it a synthetic database that has the original data and has the OMOP data, as well as Atlas and R, and all the fun stuff, that the entire ecosystem in it where someone can test out and POC. So I would say in our GitHub repository, if you type Odyssey in the box, you will find the box.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. If you're looking to install something in your own institution, like that's the best, very lightweight way to do it. If you're just wanting to even take a step earlier than that, it's like, can I just play with the tools? Most of the tools are available directly on the Odyssey website to directly demo. So if you want to play with the Atlas tool or Achilles, you'll see instances of those that are available with synthetic data, and then you can play with and get an experience. And also for our R packages, many of them are available in CRAN. We've created a synthetic data set that goes along with exercises in the Book of Odyssey that lets you basically say, download the package, walk through some steps using this Eunomia synthetic data set, and it can kind of get you started. So hopefully that'll at least get you to your MVP there.
Yep.
All right. High-level programmatic step of getting started that might be referenced. I think that website that Mui showed is probably the best place to start. The website at odyssey.org that's Join the Journey. I think that's probably where we would really encourage you to go. But if you have additional questions, don't hesitate to post them on the forums.
And if you're asking about the CDM, there's an OMOP CDM wiki site as well. So I'm gonna steal the presentation really quickly. So this is the Odyssey CDM GitHub. We spent a lot of time in the last year doing this, but you can look at here, and inside of it, it has all the conventions. So we actually went through and spelled out a lot of the conventions, all the way down to the fields, all the way down to the concept vocabularies. But you can look at this. They have conventions. It has guidelines, the CDM versions, and all that. So I won't spend too much time on it, but you guys can browse it yourself. But we spent a lot of time putting this together so that folks can better understand not only the CDM model, but also some of the standard business rules and standard conventions for doing the conversion itself. So great site to go to if you're looking at doing conversions. I think there was one last question, Patrick.
Yep, the last but not least was, has anybody tried to run Amazon Medical Comprehend in addition to Usagi? And I would actually argue that that's a perfect kind of a question to actually post out there on the Odyssey forums, because there's many more people than just here on the call. I actually believe that someone did post a forum thread about this like about a year ago, but I honestly don't remember off the top of my head where the kind of the result is. But that's the kind of thing that if you're looking for ideas or other people who have a shared interest, that you'll probably get a lot of excitement by posting that out there.
Awesome. I know we are 2 minutes over, but I do want to say thank you, everybody, for joining us and staying here. And it's a great moment here in time that we're all inside Teams for the first time on the Asia Pacific Odyssey community. We look forward to hearing more from everybody. In the next coming APAC call, we do have two guest collaborators who will be talking about their posters that they presented or they created as well during the Asia Pacific Symposium from last year. So they will be sharing their showcase in their projects. So looking forward to that in 2 weeks. I shall see everybody in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.